Live from the 607 is the ODPH Entertainment Edition, where we're talking movies, comics, TV, and more. Why don't you join in the conversation? Hashtag ODPH, because here we go. And welcome back for another edition of the ODPH Entertainment Edition. I am your host, Ken M. Sitting across from me this week is the intern himself, Padawan J.
Oh, baby.
And joining the panel, you know him from the comics blog, it's the Bry Guy Signal.
I'm back, y'all.
Oh, we're back, definitely. Hashtag ODPHEE. We took a little break from the common subject matter on the show when we had Jimmy Gazik from Floodlands. Shout out to him. And the WrestleMania extravaganza, the numbers were huge. We'll probably be doing one down the road, but we got to get back to our normal talk of movies, TV, comics, and more.
Because there's a lot going on.
There was a lot. Like, there was so much, like, we couldn't even blog it. We just had to come back on the show to just hit everything at once. Biggest one of the week, though, I got to say, the biggest news story of the week. Pat, you want to take this one?
Han Solo had another trailer come out for the movie coming out on May 25th.
The trailer looked awesome.
Yeah.
Bri, what was your thoughts on that?
I don't know. I'm looking forward to it, but I'm still hesitant on it. My complaint with a lot of the current Star Wars movies is they haven't been great with their character development. And when you're tackling someone like Han Solo, it's like, okay, you got to do some character development here with him.
Absolutely. And one thing, as we always say, we do talk spoilers on the show. So if you haven't seen it, pause it, take a watch, come back, join us in the conversation. Hashtag ODPHEE.
Yeah, I definitely love the trailer. I'm looking forward to it. I don't think they'll flesh out everything. They'll definitely leave some stuff to your own thoughts or mystery. But what I am excited to see is if they do anything like Rogue One did, where Rogue One addressed some things, hinted at some things, flushed some things out. It's particularly something that, at least to my knowledge, has never been addressed, how Han gets the Falcon.
Yeah, I think that it's going to be a telling story because obviously you see at the beginning of the movie, it's in Lando's possession.
Yep.
And you're kind of seeing Han get brought into the smuggling game, I guess you could say.
The underworld, the smuggling world.
However you want to define it, Woody Harrelson's character is bringing him into the fold, and it's awesome to see Woody in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, long overdue, I would say.
Yeah, he's just one of those the personality characters that you just need to inject into this series. And I think he's going to do wonders for it.
I was going to say he was part of the reason I like the Hunger Games movies.
Yeah.
For the most part, I just liked his character and his portrayal of it.
It's just something about the way he acts is very likable.
Yeah, there's a certain charisma to him that, it just gravitates. And I think it reflects in the audience. So seeing him in there definitely was nice. And obviously you're seeing more of Chewbacca's backstory.
Yeah, of course, back in old expanded universe, Legends as they call it now, the story was that Han was a member of the Empire, a stormtrooper as it were, saw what was going on, didn't like it, and busted Chewie out. And because he rescued Chewie owed him a life debt, which essentially said, I'm with you, and if something happens to you, I will try and save you from it, sacrificing myself.
Yeah, it was because I can't remember why Chewbacca was there, but yeah, Han was a member of the an Imperial cadet. And his superior officer wanted him to execute Chewbacca, and he refused to do it.
Interesting.
Yeah, and of course, the other interesting thing is you do get a time placement where this takes place in the franchise. Of course, you got to do a bit of digging or knowing to understand it. There is a line in the trailer where they are in the Falcon running from, I presume, the Empire, and Chewie howls, and Han goes, "You're 190? Oh, you look great for 190," which, of course, for those who know Chewbacca's age, he's about 200 years old when A New Hope takes place. And also for those who don't know, Wookiees live an absurdly long time. Like, when it hits The Force Awakens, he's not even middle-aged.
That's crazy.
It's insane. Yeah, so being 190, this puts it about 10 years before A New Hope.
Which is going to be really interesting to see how it plays out because obviously everything ties to New Hope, no matter what prequel you do. So to see how it's going to lead into it is going to be truly telling because there's going to be an entire backstory that we don't know about Han. And it's one of the scary things about doing a prequel because you have a movie so iconic as Star Wars New Hope.
Yep.
I'm not even counting Phantom Menace. I don't even want to hear it. But when you do prequels, you really got to make sure you hit the subject matter and it connects right to the franchise.
Then you got to make sure you don't tread on any toes when it comes to story. If I were a betting man, I think one of the things we're going to see in this film is, if you think back to A New Hope, when Jabba is trying to track down Han on Tatooine, and they reference him dropping a case of spice when an Imperial garrison showed up and he got boarded. You know, hey, listen, even I get boarded sometimes. I think if I were a betting man, you're going to see that story.
I don't know if we're going to see in this movie. There's rumors that I don't know if they've been denied, but I know there's been rumors that supposedly this is going to be a Han Solo trilogy.
I've heard something.
Yeah.
About
So I feel like that'll come down later in the road. And also I heard rumors, talking about a buddy of mine, he heard rumors that in this trilogy there's also going to be the start of the rivalry of Han Solo and Boba Fett.
That makes sense.
Yes, that's all I care about in this one.
Going off what you said, like when you're doing a prequel, one of the things I kind of also hate about prequels going into them, okay, this takes place before New Hope. We know Han's going to be in the original trilogy. I hate it when they try to build it up like, oh, Han's in these dire situations. It does sort of take away some elements like, okay, well, you know he's going to make it out of here. You know Chewbacca's going to make it out of here. So it's like I really want them, if they're going to do a trilogy, focus on the other people that he's running with. So you want to, because it will make you more invested in them if something happens to them.
It does tie it in and kind of tie their hands, as it were, but also it doesn't. You think back to the prequel trilogy where you knew once you saw Anakin on screen that he would have to turn into Darth Vader. You knew that he would have to get horribly disfigured and put in the metal suit. So you knew that was going to happen at some point. To our knowledge, Han shows up in the very first movie. He's just sitting there in the bar. Like, yeah, he's got to get there. Yeah, he's got to be there. But it's not so tied that this has to happen, X, Y, and Z have to happen before you get to A New Hope.
What I'm saying is like, okay, if they try to build it up like, oh my gosh, he's in a dire situation.
Oh, no,
like,
yeah.
That is one of the things I hate. It's like, okay, he's got to get out of here because obviously he's going to live.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing you always got to watch with that, too, because, I mean, the element of danger is gone, per se, but it's also something could be thrown in there that we haven't heard before. And I think that's one of the appeals of doing the trilogy.
Oh, yeah.
Or prequel, rather, I'm sorry. But, Brian,
and that was like, with the dire situation, like what you're saying there, it was kind of like in episode 3 when when Obi-Wan finally confronts Anakin. You knew both of them were walking out of here, but watching that fight, you're just more wondering, what the heck is Obi-Wan going to do to him that makes him Darth Vader?
Oh, I got that spoiled for me. Not by any one person, by the Lego Star Wars video game. Because I played that. That came out, if I'm not mistaken, right around the same time that the movie came out. And and it was the episodes 1, 2, and 3, Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and Revenge of the Sith. And I finished the Revenge of the Sith portion of the game the same night I went to go see the movie.
That's tough.
Yeah. I didn't know what was going to be said because at that point Legos didn't talk in video games, but still had it spoiled nonetheless.
I mean, hey, you gotta watch out for spoilers whenever you do it. I know when we went to see Force Awakens, we were at a wrestling show and somebody had a certain sign saying a certain character dies in the movie.
Right, but at the time it was so absurd. They're like, oh yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, and then sure enough, we get to the movie, it's like, really?
And when we get out of the movie, one of our friends brought it up. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, they did spoil it. We just didn't know it at the time.
That was like for me, Force Awakens. I can't remember what I was reading. It was some post not even related to Star Wars. And I opened it up, and the first comment was a picture of Han Solo, and it said, Kylo Ren kills me.
Yeah.
And that was the day before I went to go see Force Awakens. And then sure enough, I saw that, and I was like, I hate whoever you are out there.
Well, that's the one thing, because you don't want to go looking for, unless you're looking for spoilers, you don't want to hear them. And you want to go to a movie completely clear-minded so you can make your own opinions and just really be surprised by a story.
Yeah.
If the story holds up, it's going to be great. I mean, with this trilogy coming as we think it's going to be for the prequels, it definitely looks like it has promise.
It feels like a Western.
Kind of, like a spaghetti Western, I would say.
I'm looking for like a Firefly space-themed Western.
Yeah.
Firefly was amazing.
I mean, you get the Western feel right at the start of the trailer where Han's on the beach facing down some organization group, criminal syndicate, whatever it is.
Which, can I just say, that just looks like Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yes.
Yep. But he stands there and you get the iconic pick of old Western movie and you'll see the shot. You know, it's this holster on the side, flips it and gets ready to grab his gun. Pick out any John Wayne movie. You'll probably find it.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's going to be truly telling if you want to separate it from the Star Wars, but you also want to tie it into it.
Right.
Because you just want to treat it as his own. Like you said, it looks like a space Western. Like, I don't know how else you can describe it. But it's going to play out very interesting because you're going to see the backstory of his characters, and then as you connect them to the New Hope trilogy, and then even so now, Episode 9 might have a little bit of a reflection of it. Maybe.
You could see that, maybe.
Because Han obviously is not there.
Right.
But you could also see some characters that are going to be lurking around that maybe were in this that you could tie into there.
That could be.
And I will say there's really only one thing that I kind of want to know watching this trailer. You obviously see lots of shots of the Millennium Falcon. How the heck does Han dirty that thing up in the time that he owns it?
Well, that's true. And then the other thing I also noticed, they are, at least before we see the movie, we don't know how this happens, they are making a slight aesthetic change to the Falcon. I don't know if you guys caught this, but if you go ahead and Google an image of the Millennium Falcon right now, it's got that familiar split, the front of the ship. It's not there at this point. No, I don't
really
know. Yeah. If you go back and watch the trailer, there's a brief shot of it, but it doesn't have that familiar split at the very open of it. It's completely whole. Now, I don't know if that's something like a design in the ship, like it's supposed to draw back and then something happens or what, but I noticed that when I was watching the trailer.
Get out. I didn't even notice
I thought that was a YT 1300 thing. I thought that's how all YT 1300s were built.
No, yeah, it was all whole at the front of the ship. There was not that familiar U shape. Now, the other thing with this movie, I think we're also going to see another famously referenced moment in A New Hope, and that would be the Kessel Run.
I'll break it down for us.
Yeah, so if you watch the trailer, there is a shot where Han is flying through what looks through as a space storm. It looks like a hurricane of sorts. And, of course, there is a shot where there's a Star Destroyer attempting to make it through it, although I'm going to guess it probably doesn't make it all that greatly. My guess is that this is going to be the famous Kessel Run that he made in 12 parsecs.
Now, yes, a parsec is a unit of distance. What he means by that is the Kessel Run is supposed to be 16 parsecs, but in the old legends, Han used the Falcon's maneuverability to shave 4 parsecs off of it.
So it's not a time thing, it's a distance thing. Yeah. But I think we're finally going to get to see that because that's been referenced and inferred to for 40 years, but we've never actually seen it. I think we're finally going to get to see that familiar event.
Interesting.
The other thing I think we need to bring up is we finally have some Donald Glover speaking scenes as Lando Calrissian.
Yeah, it's the first time we've seen that in the movies, and he definitely nails it.
He's got the swagger.
I was going to say, when you first meet Lando in Episode 5, I just love how it's like, he just comes off as like the fun guy. He's like, "Oh, Han, it's good to see you, old buddy."
The old college friend.
And then he turns to Leia and he's just like, "Hello, what have we here?"
Yeah,
he's just got that swagger.
It's one of the, and I might be slightly biased, it's one of the best character intros in a movie ever because, like you said, he goes from the old college roommate that like you haven't seen in 10, 15 years, and you're, hey, let's catch up, let's go get a drink, let's, what have you been doing? Oh, hello, what have we here? He's just got that swagger because Han walks into the bar or game room or whatever it is. I've heard a story about you, and I'm wondering if it's true. And he just has that vocal tone down. Everything you've heard about me is true.
Plus he's got like the swagger fur coat thing going for him.
And he's leaning back and off to one side while holding a drink. I'm sorry, that's Billy D. Williams.
To the letter. I mean, Donald Glover, I think, is going to steal this movie.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, and I'm super excited to see him in it. But overall, I mean, my takeaway thoughts from the trailer is I'm more excited about this movie, finally, than I was when it was originally announced.
Yeah. I was going to say, and I also heard there was a lot of production stuff that I was a little worried about, like the change of directors. I'm like, oh, boy, how's this going to turn out? Now I'm a little more hopeful, and I want it to be good.
Yeah, I normally don't get too excited with casting news, particularly Star Wars, because I'm like, all right, I'm going to reserve judgment until I see the movie because I don't want to judge something based off of a name. This is the one instance that they said, yeah, he's playing Lando Calrissian. I was like, yes, 1,000 times yes. I'm also very excited for the movie. I'm always excited for anything Star Wars.
Absolutely. We don't call him Padawan J for nothing. But we want to know what you think of the trailer. Hit us up, #ODPHEE. What is your thoughts on the new Han Solo movie trailer? We want to know. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Mike C. from I Am Horror. You're listening to the ODPH, the most killer podcast on the planet.
Coming back for segment number 2 on this week's ODPH Entertainment Edition, and we have some good news that we heard.
Yeah, all of the CW DC TV shows got renewed for another season.
That is truly monumental.
Yeah, season 7, I believe, for Arrow.
Season 7 for Arrow.
Season 5 for Flash.
Yep.
Seasons 4 for Supergirl and Legends of Tomorrow, and season 2 for DC's best show out right now, Black Lightning.
Very much so borrowing from real life.
I tell you what, Black Lightning has been the sleeper hit because I thought it was going to be good, but obviously, I mean, he's not a high-profile guy in the comics.
No.
He's kind of had some runs on JLA and The Outsiders, but how they're doing the show is so good.
Yeah.
That if you have not seen it, you need to start watching immediately. Like, catch up over the summer, because their season finale is going to be very soon, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and the nice thing is CW worked out a deal with Netflix, I believe it was at least last year or 2 years ago, where their shows end, and then I believe it's either the week after they air or 2 weeks after they air. This whole past season will be up on Netflix.
I think it's 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's in the 1 to 2 week range, but yeah, so you'll have time to catch up very quickly.
Yeah, because I know it worked for Riverdale, which I know is not related to DC, but Riverdale actually got their renewal because of Netflix and how many people tuned in over the summer. So Black Lightning, if you haven't seen it, you need to watch. But there was a season finale this week, though, that we're going to break down a little bit. And it is DC's other best show, in my opinion, on the CW, Legends of Tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Now, we have seen the finale, and as we said previously, we talk spoilers. So if you haven't seen it, you know the drill by now. Going into the season, it was kind of confusing, I guess, because I wasn't really sure what direction they were going to go.
Yeah, because you started the season off after the cliffhanger they had where they were standing in Los Angeles, I believe it was. Big Ben's there, dinosaurs are running around. Oh, you know what's breaking loose. All right, where are they going to go from here?
And it's always funny with time travel. Like, I know I've referenced it on the show before. It's American Doctor Who, in my opinion.
It really is, because much like in Doctor Who, where there are points in time in Doctor Who where they just cannot go, there are points in time in Legends of Tomorrow where they just cannot go.
And it's really interesting to see this actually working on a DC superhero show, because the concept is kind of crazy of how the team was put together. Mm-hmm. And they've interchanged some parts this season. They obviously lost Firestorm. Victor Garber is not doing the show anymore, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, Crisis on Earth X was by far the best thing they've done on all 4 shows this season.
Absolutely.
Oh, yes.
So going into the finale, the bar was pretty, I don't want to say pretty high, but it's been going in a direction that the consistency of the show has really been panning out.
And it was building up for so long that you were ready to see a payoff. By that I don't mean you're ready for it to be over. It's just it's been going for so long. How is this going to end?
Yeah, because when they're fighting the demon Mollis, which I hope I'm pronouncing that right, because it's been referenced many different ways on the show.
Yep.
It was kind of like, well, this isn't a really big name in the DCU.
Yeah.
It's kind of, confusing of who he actually is. I mean, they had Damian Dark come in, again from the Arrowverse, who was played phenomenally.
Oh, he always has.
Yeah. And they introduced his daughter this season, and you saw that we now shifted to, I don't want to say they were playing off Marvel, but they're all looking for totems to fight this demon. Marvel has something called Infinity Gems or Stones. I know it's a little different, but it was kind of like, this is kind of interesting.
Never made that connection. I can see that, though.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting. So as we go to the season finale, Mollis is finally free. He's possessing Damian Dark. All hell is breaking loose.
Well, he's possessing his daughter, but they go back in time and change that so that he's then possessing Damian Dark.
Thank you. Yeah, I know this one thing. Time travel, they jump around a lot.
Yep.
But getting to the finale, Pad, what was your thoughts on it?
I love the finale. I did not expect to see Jackson, the other half of Firestorm. That was definitely a surprise to see him, and it was even more of a surprise for him to say, for him it's been 5 years, and he now has a daughter.
Yeah, which I'm not sure how they're going to play that down the road. Because I could sense that maybe next season they go into the future where the daughter maybe has powers, maybe is somehow connected to the superhero world. But going into it, I thought it was what I expected and what I didn't expect. I expected a ramification coming from defeating the villain because, I mean, obviously they're going to find a way. And honestly, who was expecting a giant-sized stuffed animal destroyer of Bebo?
I thought it was going to be Voltron, in all honesty.
I didn't think it was going to be Voltron. I know they referenced it.
They referenced it like 2 or 3 times. So when you saw a blue streak flying through, I thought it was like, the one part of Voltron that's blue. So because they kept saying it. I'm like, it's going to be Voltron.
I mean, Bebo was just entertaining because when you really think about it, you watched a giant demonic winged monster fighting a giant blue teddy bear that's just like, Bebo!
Yeah, and if you try showing this to anybody that doesn't watch the show, they're going, what the heck am I watching?
It's one of those moments that like you could...
That's one of those, I would think this is where you're going. It's one of those moments your friend will look to you and it's like, did you give me like drugs or something?
Yeah.
No, I was going to say it's one of those moments that like you're sitting at home watching and like a sibling, parent, or roommate comes walking by and they just take a glance at the moment where like Bebo's got Mollis in the air doing like the world's largest suplex. And what in the God's green earth are you watching?
Yeah, but if you talk to any other Legends fan, how else was it going to end?
I was so left field caught by that I thought about it. I'm like, of course it's going to be Bebo.
Yeah, because I was like, well, who in their right mind, and I guarantee it was Mick, was like, yep, that's the one that puts him in his happy place of just Bebo just makes everybody feel, good.
No, it wasn't Mick. Oh, who was it? It was...
it was Captain Steel there.
Yeah, it was Commander Steel because he's sitting there and he thinks about it. And I think it was because it was like a almost shared mind experience going on where like they're trying to unite the gems together. And I think it was Sarah Lance goes, all right, who thought of it? And he just goes, I'm sorry, it's the only pure thing I could think of. And then somebody else just goes, yep, nope, it's all I got in my head now too.
And it's just that good old Ghostbusters like thing. It's like, Ray, what did you do? It's the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
And they're like, all right, you know what? Let's just roll with it.
Yeah, and it works. I mean, that's the one thing about the show. It works.
It was absurd, but it worked.
Yeah, because that's the type of show it is. I mean,
it's one of those shows, and this is when a movie can be good or a show can be good or it can even be bad. Legends knows what it is, and I feel like that's why it's able to do this ridiculous stuff and like out of left field type scenarios because it knows that's what it does.
Well, yeah, because there's, what is it? Bebo breaks out, shows up, and I think it was Jonah Hex goes, what is that? And then somebody else goes, that must be Sarah's plan.
Yeah, and it works. I mean, that's the thing about it. And Sarah Lance, like I said, I think she's arguably the best written character on all 4 shows.
She's definitely come the farthest, I would say.
And I'm saying 4 because I don't count Black Lightning in that universe.
Right.
So I just want to specify that. But no, I think that her character and why she's not in the regular DC comic universe, I don't understand.
That might be something they do down the road, not too far.
They need to. I mean, I think that she might have been in it years ago, but somebody's got to bring her back and implement her in there. But overall, though, I mean, it was great. Neil McDonough as Damien Dark, I mean, always a phenomenal job acting in it. I don't know if he'll be back with the Arrowverse next season. It's
time travel. It's real crazy.
Time travel is a weird thing, but I know that obviously being on Arrow for season 4 and then Legends the past 2 seasons, I'm not sure where they're going to go with the villain because as we saw, we had a little guest appearance by a now season regular for season 4.
One named John Constantine.
Yeah, which how excited are we for that?
Oh, so excited.
He was arguably my favorite part in season 4 of Arrow when he showed up as a guest star. Or was it season 3?
No, I think you're right. It was season 4.
Season 4.
Okay. Yeah, and he just shows up, and it's like John Constantine.
Yeah, and he nails it.
Oh, yeah, well, because like I've said before, the show he was on, not that great. Him as an actor as John Constantine, awesome.
I mean, he loves doing it. He voice acted John Constantine in the animated movie Justice League Dark, and he has said in interviews, yeah, I like doing the role.
And I think he's going to be a well-added addition to the team. I know that they're going to be doing some shuffling of the team this coming season.
Well, and the way he shows up at the end of the episode is so phenomenal because they go back to Aruba because, correct me if I'm wrong, that is where he, what's his name, started.
That was where Mick was at the start of it.
At the start of the season, he goes back and one of them just goes, oh, hey, good idea on Aruba. And he goes, when I said I wanted to go to Aruba, I didn't mean with everybody.
Yeah.
And they're just chilling beachside and they reference how the timekeepers are taking care of everything because they're like, well, when you take care of a giant demon, you get some R&R time. And, the assistant shows up dressed like John Constantine and the entire team thinks it's John Constantine. And then John Constantine comes and says, yeah, you guys messed up.
Yeah, and he comes with a dragon's head.
Yeah, it's just like, which one of you decided it'd be a good idea to let a demon out to fight another demon?
And they're like, Sarah's like, that was me.
Yeah.
And even Mick, I just love it when the assistant blocks his son because that's how the season started was Caesar blocks the sun while he's in Aruba, and he's just lying there. He's just like, "Hey, idiot, get out of my way."
Yeah.
Yeah, he just wants a little R&R and Son, and he keeps getting
Mick
taken
is-
away.
Mick is one of my favorite characters, mostly from the standpoint he just doesn't care. He just says what he wants.
Yeah, he is the well-needed comic relief for that show.
And you can never know what he's going to do next because I'm sorry, who was expecting him to be sitting there watching Lord of the Rings?
No. I mean, that's the thing about Legends is just you don't know what to expect. So trying to guess what they're going to do for next season, I don't know. I'm really trying to figure this out.
Which, speaking of the Lord of the Rings thing, that for me, that was the biggest surprise of the season was he was watching the scene from Return of the King where they're in Minas Tirith and he's talking to Denethor. And then they actually go back in time and they managed to get the actor who played him for that scene. Like, oh, we got to reshoot some scenes. Can we work on your lines? To actually go and get that actor for me was the biggest surprise of the season.
It definitely was. And, I mean, Legends ended on a very good note. I know the other season finales are going to be coming. Supergirl is back next week as we tape. So I'm just going to pose this question to the panel. All 5 shows, and I'm going to keep this just to the 4 Arrowverse shows because Black Lightning is in its own separate universe. All 4 shows have been renewed. If you had the choice of taking one of those shows off the air and replacing it with another superhero or team, which ones for both? Starting with Pat.
I would take off Supergirl simply because for me, it's always been the one that seems to lack direction. There doesn't seem to be an overarching story. It tries at one. For me, it just doesn't hit home. It doesn't hit its mark. It's got its moments where it's a good moment. It's a fun watch. But overall, it just doesn't hit the mark. It just, for me, I watch it. I enjoy it to a certain extent, but it just never hit home. If I had to add a character or team for a show, I'd say maybe Green Lantern.
Okay.
I'd like to see that's something that really hasn't been done yet. I know they're planning a movie or supposedly planning a movie down the road, but I would like to see him do something on the Arrowverse show with that. It would add another layer to the show because you've already got your, I guess you would call it base level superhero in that your Green Arrows, your this, you've got your extraterrestrial stuff. You've got your Mystic with John Constantine. You've got your time travel. Do something with Green Lantern. It just expands it further.
Bri?
I would have to say I'd get rid of Arrow. As much as I loved the show, like early on, like I loved season 1, I loved season 2. Even season 3 was all right. It wasn't as good. But after that, I just felt like it lost its roots. Like Oliver has such a big team now, which he keeps arguing with them and losing them because he can't can't trust anybody all the time, and it gets annoying, it gets repetitive, and it's like I just feel like if you look at where the show started, it's no longer the same, and it's not, and I don't mean that in a good way. And it's like one of the things was like I didn't like season 4 because they took him out of his element. He went up against Damien Dark, and Damien Dark is magic. How is Oliver, a guy who uses a bow and arrow, supposed to fight magic?
Yeah.
That being said, though, I would add a character who's already been in the show, and I would want Manu Bennett to have his own Deathstroke series.
Excellent choice.
I think Manu Bennett would agree with you.
That was what I loved about season 2. Season 5, when he came back, it was awesome. Even the few episodes he was in for this season before he went away, I just loved them because it's like, yeah, this is Deathstroke.
He's one of those characters that in a show that he's not there often. But when he shows up on screen, you know some stuff's about to hit the fan.
Yeah, and that's the one thing. I mean, Arrow has had dynamic villains over the years, but I don't think anyone has resonated more to the fan base than Manu Bennett's Deathstroke.
Because he was already, I would argue, for DC comic book readers, a very popular character. But Manu Bennett's performance introduced him to a much wider audience that may not have known everything about him, and it just blew his popularity over the moon.
Yeah, I think so too.
I mean, when people heard they were casting for Deathstroke in the DC cinematic universe, a lot of people wanted Manu Bennett to play
I wouldn't
him.
have mind that.
Well, it makes sense, but I mean, we've had those discussions off air about the struggles of, dare we say, copying Marvel, where you're casted as a character, everything's connected, whether it's TV, Netflix, movies, to DC, where everything is kind of a multiverse, no matter where you are, whether you agree with it or not.
Yeah, I have no problem with that. I like his current casting. I can't remember the actor's name right now, but
Joe Manganiello?
Yep, that's it. It's just like, it is one of those things like, oh man, it would have been cool to see Manu Bennett as Deathstroke in his own movie.
Yeah, I think so too. And I mean, it's never to say never, because they could be doing flashbacks. They might. The one thing with the movies is like they could go a lot of different directions. Maybe they would give a nod to the TV. I don't know. For me, I'm gonna go probably a little more crazy on this one.
Okay.
I would actually take Flash off.
Interesting.
I think the problem I'm having with it is seasons 1 and seasons 2 were so great. In my opinion, I thought they were just fantastic. But season 3 and even this season, I'm kind of losing interest. In the sense of Savitar did not resonate to me as a major villain. And plus,
No.
my biggest issue / deal with, I guess you could say, with the Flash is the Flash has one of the best rogues gallery of all of comics. I think Spider-Man and Batman rival him.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think the TV show has done enough justice to flesh those characters out.
See, I enjoy the show, but what I would like is a mesh of last season and this season. In that last season, I enjoyed the sense of threat and potential danger, that it felt at any moment something could happen and somebody could die. That you didn't know coming out of a break if he was going to show up and just kill somebody. But then also on the flip side of that, it kind of bugged me that it was season number whatever, however many consecutive villains that were speedsters.
That was what it was for me. It's like, okay, season 3, we have another speedster.
I would like a villain where you have that constant threat of you don't know where they're going to show up. You don't know how they're going to show up. There's just always that over-brooding threat that they're going to show up. But then I would also like something that is the kind of chess game that you're having with this season.
I can hear that, and I'd like to see that. But I guess what's losing the interest for me is I think the cast is, and this is the same problem I have with Arrow. There's so many heroes involved,
right,
that it takes away from the main hero. And I'm not saying you can't have like multiple heroes on a show, but I think you kind of need to do pacing. And I think this year, like with the Elongated Man, I think he's been on too many episodes.
Right, and I mean, one of my complaints, I guess you could say, for this season is, do you really need to have somebody show up every episode that's like a special guest appearance? Like, I know the most recent episode, Danny Trejo showed up. Always loved seeing Danny Trejo, but it's like, how many weeks in a row do we need to have somebody from one of the other universes show up for something? Like, space them out a little bit.
My other complaint was at the start of season 3 was I hated how they took the whole Flashpoint paradox, that whole comic book, and they just put it in one episode. You could have done a lot with that in season 3.
But they do that, though. I mean, that's the one thing. They give you such a great cliffhanger, and then they come back, and everything's retconned in 2 episodes.
And that was that was my complaint with Arrow this season, is like, you watch the whole island go up in flames, and one person died?
Yeah,
and it's one person who isn't really even on the show that much.
It was forgettable.
I'll say one thing I just remember from this week's episode. How does anyone else love that Jay and Silent Bob are now a part of the Arrowverse universe?
I thought it was classic.
That was I did not expect that. I know I said to you when the day the episode was going to air, I'm like, oh hey, tonight's the Kevin Smith directed episode. Not once did I imagine Jay and Silent Bob would show up.
Yeah.
But headcanon accepted, Jay and Silent Bob are now a part of the Arrow universe.
It's a cool thing. It definitely is. I mean, I'm just saying with Flash though, I think that maybe it's gone off the tracks a little bit.
Yeah.
No pun intended. But I think the Thinker, I don't know. For me, it's just like, I don't know. I'm just not connecting as much as I thought I would.
I enjoy the chess game, but for me, the end game, I feel, is taking a little, maybe too long to get there.
Yeah, I guess that's the issue too. I mean, I would love to see next season come back as the Rogues Gallery. Right. And just let that be the season.
Sure. Because
you have so many characters involved. You can definitely stretch it out multiple arcs and get more people involved. And, I mean, you almost could set it up like a Nightfall type storyline.
You can almost set it up, and now Brian will get this reference, early Smallville, where it was a Freak of the Week kind of deal, where instead of Freak of the Week, you would have it, 3-4 episodes with this villain, 3-4 episodes with that villain.
Yeah. I mean, I'd like to see that with Flash. I mean, don't get me wrong. We're not saying we want to see these shows canceled.
No.
But the hypothetical is if you had to remove one show, because, I mean, unless DC is going to have their entire network, like the WWE, where it's just, hey, all our shows at once on one.
Right.
Then, you're just kind of playing around with the idea of, is there too many shows? I mean, I don't think so, as long as the quality is there.
Yeah.
I know Flash has kind of been so-so. Arrow, Arrow, I think, needs some retooling, and I think they're going to get that next season. But for me, that's the one I would take off the board for right now, unless they just to do some retooling. The one I would replace it with is Nightwing.
Oh,
A solo Nightwing series.
I like that.
Yeah.
There's been enough Batman references they could do it.
Exactly. And you don't need to even include Batman. Put him, Dick Grayson, in Bloodhaven and let him run. And there's been references to Bloodhaven.
I was just going to ask,
in the Arrowverse.
hasn't there been references?
I was gonna say, wasn't that when in like season 3, Roy, when he left, isn't that where he went? He went to Bloodhaven.
Yeah, and they never touched upon it, or at least he mentioned it. So I don't know if he actually went down there.
I know. I want to say I know Roy and Bloodhaven came up in the same sentence or something. So I might have been he referenced it.
But still, you have that element in there. I know Arrow this season did flat out mention Bruce Wayne.
Yep.
So you could tie that into it.
Mentioned Bruce Wayne. Themyscira got mentioned in Legends.
Yeah, they're name dropping a lot of places, which is great. Integrate, those characters into the Arrowverse.
I was gonna say you could even have like Nightwing show up in like an Arrow show, and it's like he just shows up to help out, and they're like, "Who the heck are you?" And it's like he just casually explains like, "Oh, I was taken in, and a guy trained me to be a better man." And it's like, as DC Comics fans, when he references the guy who trains him, it's like, okay, that's Batman.
Yeah,
we know it.
Right, and it's not an obscure character that it would go over some people's head. I feel like Nightwing is fairly mainstream enough between the comics and the animated series from back in the 90s that most fans watching the show would get that.
Yeah, and I definitely want to see that. I mean, at some point. I don't want to see any shows get canceled because I do watch 5 shows. I'm going to count Black Lightning in this in this statement. But I definitely like seeing it, and if I have to see one, hey, I'd like to see a Nightwing. But let me know what you think. Hashtag ODPH. What shows do you want to see added to the CW? Are you excited for the renewals? We want to know. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey, I'm Mike Pappy from Rye Bread, and you're listening to the ODPH.
Coming back on this week's ODPH Entertainment Edition, talking a little comics, and there's one guy to bring it up. Bright Guy Signal, what you got?
Okay, so this month, we finally had the conclusion of DC's epic series, Dark Knight's Metal. It was by far one of the craziest stories you will ever read, and you don't have to be a Batman fan. You don't have to be a Batman fan to understand how crazy it was. Just if you read it and look at any character and what happens to him in it, it's just insane.
Now, are we talking crazy like stuff happened that you could have never imagined?
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Have you ever imagined that Batman would have to fly out of hell on the back of a dragon who is the Joker?
You know what? Now that I think about it, no.
That had to be one of the coolest yet head-scratching moments I have ever seen in a comic.
The comic itself even addresses it. When Batman escapes the dark multiverse, he's riding the Joker, who is a dragon, and a panel shows Damian and Dick Grayson talking, and Damian's like, "Father's alive, he escaped," or something along that matter, and Dick literally just turns and says, "Yeah, and he's riding a dragon." Because why wouldn't he?
Is it laughing or cracking jokes like a Joker, or is it just kind of silent?
It's just kind of silent, burning everything.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, which, I mean, just to go on the idea that Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo just unveiled this whole, it's just a trip. I mean, that's the easiest way to describe it. It is just visually impressive, and it is just about as in-your-face, loud, and just powerful as you can get, because you see a lot of crazy stuff that you would never think of. Dare I say, the only issue I would have, I guess, they had Sandman appear from the DC Vertigo line, and it was kind of like, yeah, I'm here, and then he's gone. And
I was going to say, they built him up like he was somebody in the first issue, which obviously he is. He shows up, and he's talking to Batman, and then you don't see him until, I believe, issue 4, and then he's in that for that comic. He's like, okay, you and Superman go on your way. Goodbye.
Yeah, and I think that it starts out with so many crazy things that, Batman secretly had the Joker in the Batcave, and, they find that there's just this...
Or one of the Jokers.
Or one of it, as we're going to explain a little later in the show. it was just like it kind of spirals out that Batman has been exposed, like checking out the multiverse.
Yeah, he's been looking at what's called the dark multiverse, which is a reality of, okay, in the DC multiverse there's 52 worlds, but beneath it, if you look at it as like floors, there's the top floor is the multiverse, and then below it in like the basement is the dark multiverse, where there's infinite amounts of worlds which are just twisted nightmares of everybody's reality. And that's where the Dark Knights come from. It is a Justice League made up of Batman gone evil in every sense. Like the leader of them is the Batman who laughs, which is he got corrupted by the Joker, and now Batman just is the Joker. There's another one where he literally absorbs the Flash into himself so he can have the Speed Force.
It almost feels like a what if story, but in the worst possible way.
Yes,
That's a great way to describe it.
Again, with the Bat Who Laughs, he also has Robin still, but there are these little feral creatures that he keeps up in chains.
That had to be like the most original yet frightening character I think that's been introduced in DC Comics the past 10 years.
Yes, I would agree with that.
There's a lot of this that like I'm surprised it went to the DC review board or whatever it is, and they're like, no, yeah, this is okay.
No, because I think Snyder and Capullo have earned that right to do it. I think that they're the creators. I think when they pitched it to the powers that be, they're like, "This is so original. Run with it, and just see where it goes." But I can understand your thing, your point there, Pat, because it is just so like in your face, loud, vibrant. Just it's a force of nature in its own right. That I'm sure a lot of editors probably went like, "Whoa, we can't publish this because it is just that crazy." And I mean crazy in a good way because it's so original, is what I'm saying. You don't think of this as a normal superhero story by any means. But the fact that you have the multi-layers now of the multiverse. You now have Hawkman is now coming back.
Yeah, he's supposed to actually get his own... At the end of the Dark Knight's Metal, he's in a coma, but I guess in June he's getting his own ongoing series.
Which will be interesting to see because I think he's one of the characters in the DCU that's probably the most polarizing.
You can either write him very good or he's just bad.
Yeah, depending on what side of the fence you're on. And there's a lot more going on with this because obviously Metal is the story of the DC heroes fighting the dark versions of the multiverse, that their counterparts and such. And then they go into No Justice, which involves Brainiac warning the heroes that there's another threat coming since you've tampered into the multiverse. And you're not ready, so I have a blueprint.
I'll say Brainiac contacting you about anything, not good.
No, I mean it's kind of just more of a crazy idea that Brainiac wants to save Earth. Then he's going to combine heroes with villains and make their own like kind of sub teams. And at the end of this is where we get the Justice League done by Scott Snyder.
And even after Metal, not just like No Justice coming out. They've also used Metal to create multiple spin-offs like of new heroes, and also introduce some other arcs that are probably going to come out. Like Immortal Men came out this week by Tynan, and it's drawn by Jim Lee, and it's a really entertaining comic. I recommend you go see it. But one of my things I'm looking forward to is at the end of Metal, Dream is gone. No one knows where he is. He's vanished.
That could have a lot of implications going down the road.
Yeah. And like when I saw that, it's like I can't remember who it is, but someone's walking through like Dream's home and he can't find him, and there's a book missing from his library.
And that will probably lead into a major event coming next year, I would guess. Because you don't exactly bring him in just to say, oh, he was there.
Yeah, and I don't think Neil Gaiman would want that if it was just, hey, can we just cameo your Pride and Joy into a comic? He'd probably be like, no.
Yeah, I can't see him letting that happen.
Good day, sir.
Yeah. And I think this is all going to tie into maybe the ending of Doomsday Clock.
It could. I'm really curious where they're still going to go with Doomsday Clock. Like, they're building up that something is coming when Dr. Manhattan shows up. Because we haven't even seen him. We're 4 issues in, and we haven't even seen him in the DC universe yet, like facing anybody yet.
No, I mean, there's so many different ways to go. And I think what I'm tying into is with Jeff Johns writing that book, he has a lot more ways to kind of incorporate the DCU. I know that there's another book that's coming out a little later this year that has implications on some previous work, and maybe it has something to do with Doomsday Clock. I might be stretching about this, But we're finally going to get our answers to something that happened in the Justice League run of Jeff Johns that has had many fans questioning who is the Joker.
And for those of you who don't know, in Jeff Johns' Justice League run, at the end of the Dark Side War, Batman was allowed to ask the Mobius chair one question, and he wanted to ask the one question that fans have wanted forever, and the one he has wanted forever, and that is, who is the Joker? And the Mobius chair just gave him another mystery by saying there are 3 Jokers.
Now, this is going to be really puzzling to see how he pulls this off. Anybody can do it. It's Jeff Johns. I don't doubt his
he is an amazingly talented writer. There's a good reason he's the head writer of DC.
Yeah. And I think with him, it's like he must have a really unique idea coming down the pike.
So, yeah, he's not exactly going to half-ass this.
No. I don't think he does anything half-assed.
No, I mean, when it came to Doomsday Clock, when we were there for Comic-Con, he was talking about how he's like, I am not just making this a fun comic for people to read. He's like, this is either going to be big or it's going to be nothing.
Yeah, and in fact, that now they've gone bi-monthly for it in releasing, they're taking their time with this. And he really wants to make sure the quality's there. So obviously touching upon who is the Joker, which, I mean, this mystery has been alluded to for years.
I'll say arguably the biggest mystery in comic book history.
You could argue. I mean, I think it's a fair argument.
I was going to say, Batman's the world's greatest detective, and in all of his comics, he's never figured out who the Joker is.
Yeah. So
or
now
he's come close, and it's changed at the last minute.
Yeah. And it's the one mystery he can't figure out, so let alone that he has his information. And I thought he might have forgot it after he left the Mobius chair, but apparently not. And now we're going to get an origin, and allegedly there's 3 Jokers. See, in my mind, I'm guessing it's split personalities.
More than likely.
That's the only thing I can think of.
Because the thing with the Batman universe is that all of its villains have some sort of personality disorder. You know, Two-Face has his issues going on and everything else. That would make sense.
Yeah. Or unless, I mean, the Joker could just be that mentally warped that he believes that there's 3 personalities.
That also would not surprise me.
And
plus, if we find out there's 3 physical Jokers, then that also leads into question one of my favorite comics is, what does that make the Killing Joke? Who is the Joker in that book? If it's and I'm talking not personality wise, I'm talking like 3 physical human beings are the Joker.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much that you can ask about this, and I can't wait to read it and figure out where they're going to go with this, because there is so many directions that this is going to spiral out of. Because moving forward, depending on who's writing Batman or who's writing the Joker at the time, because usually Joker just winds up in Batman, how are you going to take that approach? What Joker are you going to use? So many questions about this. But just to tie it back in fold, DC Metal was everything it was supposed to be and then some. If you haven't read it, you need to go check it out and let us know what you think. Hashtag ODPHEE. What was your thoughts on DC's Metal? We're going to come back with our one-shots. We'll be right back.
It's a heartbreak, soul-shaped radio attack. Taking 4 steps forward, no steps back.
Hey, this is Vince the Common Man Ciatoy, local MMA fighter, telling you to keep on listening to the ODPH, the 607's up-and-coming newest podcast.
We knew right where we'd be, floating on the airwaves, you see. It's a heartbreak, soul-shaped radio attack. Taking 4 steps forward and no steps back. We knew right where we'd be.
Coming back for the final segment on this week's ODPH Entertainment Edition. But before we get into our one-shots, we have to give a quick shout-out to Fair City Fire, who is going to be playing Ransom Steel Tavern April 27th. Brian Wolf and the boys are coming up from Texas on their tour for their new album, Shake Your Bones. So for more information on that, faircityfire.com. We can't wait to see him up here. But now we got to do these little one-shots. Pat, start us off.
Well, my one shot is for a PlayStation 4 video game coming out next week, April 20th, God of War. It is the sequel. It is the reboot, whatever it's going to be. I'm not quite sure yet because they're being very coy about it in the franchise. The review embargo got lifted. IGN gave it a 10 out of 10. It is getting darn near perfect scores. The Metacritic score, which for those who don't know, that is a percentage that is taken from all the posted reviews, is 94%. People are already calling it Game of the Year contender, if not the best game ever.
Really?
Yeah.
And how many Gods of War have they had?
Oh, on console, 3 or 4, and then there's been at least 2 or 3 on portable.
And this one is the best game of all time, they're saying.
It's in that conversation.
Wow.
Just between the visuals, the story, and everything else, it is getting like I was expecting a good review from IGN, but I was not even expecting a perfect 10 out of 10 from them.
I was gonna say I've never seen them give a 10 out of 10.
They said it was a masterpiece.
It's not Injustice 2.
It's better than
Or
Justice
Rocket
League.
League.
Oh, shots fired.
Yeah, there's that. No, but
Shout out to our buddy Josh Royce.
Yes, Sound Guy Galore, JR. That's his game of choice. But God of War, I mean, hey, if it's still doing it, and I mean, if it's this good, I might have to give it, a little checkout for it.
Yeah, it's of course dealing Norse mythology. The originals dealt with Greek mythology. So of course, some point Thor and Odin are going to show up. I'm excited to see where they go.
Definitely.
Can they get Chris Hemsworth to voice Thor?
Never say never.
If only. If only. Brad Guy, what you got?
Well, going off the video game of Josh there, it's not really a video game, but it's for video gamers and anyone who's not a gamer. Ready Player One, Steven Spielberg's new movie. It's out in theaters now. I went and saw it last weekend, and I had such a blast with it. Spielberg, in my opinion, is one of the best directors working today. He's just delivered so many great movies, and this is another one. It is just filled with tons of pop culture references. It is a great movie. It is a fun time. And it also isn't a movie that just throws pop culture references in your face. It actually has a compelling story. And there is kind of a reason why, okay, you see the bike from Akira show up in the movie, and it's racing alongside the DeLorean from Back to the Future. It's like, the world is set in this video game world where the creator of it loves 80s pop culture, and he wanted to share that experience and his love with it with the gamers of his world.
Yeah, Spielberg is definitely one of those directors that is very good, very great, and there's a reason that he's very hard to get to direct your movie because his schedule is booked for years in advance.
Yeah, and just the fact that he took his time out for this, I mean, it's truly saying something about the movie. I mean, I've heard mixed, but Brad Guy, I go off your word. It's worth checking out. I might go take a quick glance at it.
Oh, yeah, you should.
Absolutely. So for my one shot to take us out, a very, very good show made its triumphant return since our last episode.
Yes.
And that is Legion.
Oh, baby.
On FX.
Yes.
Now, if you have been living under a rock and you haven't seen the show,
sorry.
Yeah, Brad Guy, I'm pointing the finger of shame at you. But it's easy to catch up with if you can find it. But it's the story of Professor X's son and just the insanity that is his life.
And the constant sharp left turns.
Yeah, it is by far the most visually impressive show on TV.
The cinematography is nothing short of masterpiece.
Yeah, you don't have any idea what is real and what is fake. Because if you know anything about Legion, he suffers from multiple personalities.
Mm-hmm.
His story in New Mutants, his origin is worth giving a read. Chris Claremont wrote it, I believe. Is something you need to check out. And just they're portraying him on TV that I honestly thought when I heard about this show, I wasn't going to care about it. I really was like, Legion, because to me, he never really stuck out in the comics other than he is an overpowerful villain, or mutant rather. Sometimes he's portrayed as a villain. I mean, he started the Age of Apocalypse, if you want to go dig through that in the X universe.
Yeah.
I mean, trying to do the right thing, but he's just one of those characters that is just very complex. To see how he was portrayed last season on Legion was truly remarkable.
Yeah.
And the surprise villain, who I did figure out, and I actually got in trouble for tweeting it.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, which we don't need to talk about. The Shadow King was spot on, awesome to add to the show. And there was a little tie-in, if you looked in last season, to Professor X being on the show. Mm-hmm. It was kind of more of a dream sequence.
Yep.
But we come back this season, and at the cliffhanger ending where Legion was kidnapped at the end of it, well, we time jumped and we had no idea we did.
Yeah, it wasn't one of those, we're going to have a brief, maybe 30-second, 45-second sequence where you see something. No, it was just a hard time cut.
Yeah, and it was just one that, it's just, kudos out to the writing and the production team for that, because it was a complex story of just explaining what has happened in a year and his supporting cast and how crazy it's getting. And now they're kind of showing a little more ties to the X universe. It's going to get really interesting in a hurry.
And it's a complex story that you would think maybe they're juggling too many balls, they're going to drop a few. But it doesn't. It handles it masterfully.
Yeah, it's one of the best shows on TV, period.
Yeah.
But albeit, You have to really be patient because there's a lot going on. It can definitely confuse you at times.
It can be a bit of a slow burn.
Yeah, it's a slow burn, but man, when it pays off,
Yeah.
holy sugar cookies. And
Yeah.
I don't say that lightly.
No, he doesn't.
Absolutely not, because Legion, in my opinion, one of the best on TV right now.
Yes.
And one other show that we got to quickly plug, I know we said one shots, but we definitely have to give a shout out for this one. Walking Dead season finale is this week.
Stories are coming out. Expect big things.
I hope so, because we have really not been talking a lot about it since it came back this season. I've been kind of disappointed with the season.
I've enjoyed it.
It's been good, but they're dragging their feet with it.
I'm just disappointed. Simon Ogg, I believe, is the guy's name. They killed him off in this past week's episode, of course. If the voice sounds familiar, that's because he voices Trevor in the Grand Theft Auto 5 video game. And if there's ever a character I would want to see in the Walking Dead universe, it's Trevor from Grand Theft Auto 5, because my goodness, he would give Negan a run for his money.
That is saying something, because Negan has been great this season, but
Yes.
he hasn't been on as much because we have too many people on the cast.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Like they just have too many people involved. I mean, granted, everybody was like, thought the internet was going to crash when Carl got killed off. I mean, it changes a lot moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know necessarily if it's going to impact that much.
We'll see. There's one thing, I know I've said it to you off air. I won't say it on here because I don't want to potentially spoil anything. There's one thing in the season finale I want the final scene to be. You know what it is. I've discussed it with you before. If this happens, and I'm not saying it will, I don't know. I'm not going into spoilers or reading spoilers for this one. If it happens, it will, for me, be the greatest ending for the season they've ever done.
I hope it happens. What is it, you ask? Tune in and find out.
Yes.
Because we will be having a quick recap of that episode on next week's show. So, for the Bry Guy Signal,
Later, all.
for Padawan J,
Thank you.
I am your host, Ken M. Thank you as always for listening to the ODPH Entertainment Edition. We'll see you next time.